Sometimes it feels like the noise around us only grows louder and the weight of the world a little heavier than before. This is 10 Better Minutes, a place where you can find a few moments of calm through stories that show the world in a fuller light. Here, you will hear true stories from the past week that remind us complexity is real and that kindness quietly continues alongside hardship. Today, we will meet a crow who helped a fellow bird survive and explore a friendship across generations that found comfort in simple companionship. But first, I want to begin with a story about neighbors rushing into danger to help an elderly woman trapped in a burning house. At about 11:30 p.m. in Wigston, Leicestershire, England, a fire started in the utility room of Phyllis Day's home. Inside, Phyllis, who was 87 years old and living with Alzheimer's, was asleep. Her daughter, Suzanne Wright, was about 5 miles away when her doorbell camera lit up with activity at her front door. At first, Suzanne worried. She thought it might be intruders, and she also knew her mother might not hear smoke alarms. Before bed, Phyllis's hearing aids had been removed. Then Suzanne did something steady and practical. She used the doorbell intercom to speak with the neighbors and guide them to a key box outside, so responders could get in quickly. Two neighbors, Pav Sarpal, aged 28, and Stefan Smart, aged 44, ran into the burning house to reach Phyllis. They used towels to help with breathing, woke her, and brought her down and out of the front door. Another neighbor, Dean Archer, aged 30, had heard a loud explosion and rushed in as well. With Phyllis led by the arm, they got her outside just in time. Later, Suzanne and the neighbors emphasized gratitude, and Phyllis was taken care of. She will stay with Suzanne until repairs are made. Fire officials also shared an important reminder: people should not enter burning buildings. But this story still leaves us hopeful, because in those urgent moments, ordinary neighbors chose to step forward for someone they cared about. When a big life change sends you searching for a place to land, it can be the smallest, most practical kindness that changes everything. And sometimes, that kindness turns into a friendship you never expected. Riley Middaugh was 28 and just starting her photography business after moving to Oregon, but she did not have a place to stay. That is when Tom Ward, a 75-year-old neighbor with a connection through a friend's stepdad, offered her his tiny home. 3 years later, their days look almost routine in the best way. They share dinner 2 to 3 nights a week, with Ward cooking and Riley doing the dishes. The evening often ends with chocolate chip cookies, and then a classic movie such as It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. There's a familiar little rhythm to it too. Riley says Tom usually falls asleep about 15 minutes in, and she watches while he snores. One viral moment captured the warmth of it all when Tom texted her about bringing his hearing aid to work. It was such an ordinary, caring detail, and it turned into a reminder that connection is built from the small things you remember to ask about. In their fireside chats, Riley says age seems to disappear. You can feel it in the way they talk about life and music, and how quickly laughter finds its way into the room. If you are searching for belonging, this story offers a steady hope. Trust in people and let everyday moments do their quiet magic. There are moments when progress feels personal, like it grows out of one person's steady choices and then spreads into the lives around them. Today's story is one of record-breaking endurance and a quiet kind of giving. Kelsey Flendler set out to row alone from California to Hawaii, aiming to make the journey feel like a milestone in both distance and purpose. After 43 days, covering about 2,400 miles, she pulled into Alawai Boat Harbor in Honolulu just after 9 p.m., and she was greeted by a crowd of more than 100 people. She did not only arrive, she arrived ahead of history. The report says she became the first American woman to row alone from California to Hawaii, and she broke the previous women's record of 86 days, 10 hours, and 5 minutes held by Leah Ditton. She also surpassed the men's record of 52 days. Even better, she used her time on the water to raise money for a charity that supports the physical and mental care of Colorado River rafting guides, collecting $30,000 along the way. In her day 43 entry, she shared that she felt more powerful in her own skin. What I love most is how the finish line becomes a beginning for other people. A solo row is still a form of connection, because every stroke and every donated dollar points toward care that can outlast the race. It is amazing how quickly hope can show up, especially when someone decides to help the small and vulnerable things around us. Today's story is about a rescue that turned into something almost like a family. When volunteers at Brinsley Animal Rescue took a starving jackdaw fledgling into their care, they did more than offer food and warmth. They placed him in a recovery unit with an older fledgling crow, and that older bird quietly stepped into the role of teacher and guide. The little one, nicknamed Frank Sinatra for his piercing blue eyes, was around 6 weeks old but noticeably small from malnutrition. In the calm routine of quarantine, Frank began to copy what he saw, perched close and following the movements of his new companion. Day by day, the older crow fed him and coached him through the basics of swallowing worms and seeds. Videos from the unit show them together, steady and focused, like learning is its own kind of medicine. And because the volunteers were watching closely and cheering for progress, the plan stayed grounded and practical. Right now, Frank is still recovering, but the team is hopeful. They want him well enough to move into an aviary, where he can learn to fly and eventually be prepared for re-release back into the world he belongs to. It makes you think about what mentorship can do, how patient care turns survival into the first steps of becoming. On a warm day in Sevilla, a family left a small beachscape painting leaning against a garden wall while they rushed out to load their car, only to later realize it was missing. That simple moment of distraction could have turned into a long, sad story, but it did not. Andres Hurtado, visiting Sevilla from Murcia with his family, noticed the painting and picked it up. He thought it might be headed for the garbage, especially with its golden frame. Later, he used help from artificial intelligence and traced what he had to an original work by the 19th century painter Joaquin Sorolla. An auction house in Madrid even confirmed its value, potentially up to $150,000. Then, Andres saw a police notice about a stolen painting. Without waiting, he called police right away and said he had the painting and that it had not been stolen from their home. In the end, police organized the return, and the family in Sevilla was reunited with the Sorolla painting that belonged to them. The resolution felt surprisingly human. Their relief did not end with paperwork. They told Andres they had prepared a reward, not because a valuable artwork solves every problem, but because an honest choice can mend what confusion breaks. It is a quiet reminder that trust in people often shows up in the smallest decisions, made quickly while nobody is watching. As always, I have a wonderful tip for you to help with your mental reset and find more joy in the world. Today's tip is about something small that can ripple outward, especially when it feels like the effort is invisible. Here's the practice. Thank someone whose work usually goes unnoticed. Think about the person who makes things easier without being asked to, the coworker who cleans up after the meeting, the teacher who notices who is struggling before anyone says a word, the neighbor who shovels the walkway even when no one thinks to mention it, the friend who listens, remembers details, and shows up again and again. A genuine thank you does not have to be long. It just has to be specific. Try something like, "I noticed how you handled that part of the project. It made the day smoother," or "Thank you for checking in. It helped more than you know." Name the impact, not just the action. And if you worry it feels awkward, keep it simple and steady. Look them in the eye, use a calm voice, and say it like you mean it. You are not just being polite. You are giving their effort a place to land. Try it today. One thank you can brighten your world and theirs. Well, friends, that is the end of today's 10 Better Minutes episode. Thanks for sticking with me through all that quieter good news and for giving yourself a little space to breathe. If everything feels loud and heavy lately, I hope this reminded you of something steady beneath it all. There are still people doing decent things for one another. There is still care showing up in ordinary ways. And even when you cannot see it right away, hope is still working, just at a human pace. This is Ian Rhodes with 10 Better Minutes. Take care, and I will see you again tomorrow.